On this episode of Resiweek, it's all wall-to-wall CEDIA talk. What impressed us, what trends we saw, and what got us all excited leaving the show floor. All this and more on this episode of Resiweek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Daylight, the leading producer of high-quality projection screens worldwide, and by Atlas IED, innovative audio solutions for every business environment.
This is Resiweek episode 84, CEDIA Wrap-Up.
This is Resiweek.
Welcome to Resiweek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And today I'm pleased to be joined by Mitchell Klein. He's the Executive Director of the Z-Wave Alliance. How are you, sir?
I'm fabulous and recovering from a week in San Diego, which I'd love to go back and recover again from.
Exactly. Maybe one without that much of a trade show in it, though.
Oh,
just vacation time, right?
Even okay with a trade show, but yeah, it'd be nice, yeah.
Very good. And last but not least, we have Richard Fregosa. He was my partner in crime for a bunch of the show. He's the principal and founder of Fregosa Design. How are you, sir?
Mellow West Coast greetings. I actually even got to stay on the show in West Coast time. And yeah, we were attached at the hip for 3 days, I think, at this point. So this is the furthest we've been apart. So our hearts aren't beating as one at the moment.
We are no longer in sync.
Tripod, you know.
We cleared a path. I will say that.
Yeah, this was the first year that we had full-on tripods with the tripod rolling base for the sticks, and it was fantastic. But that will you bite 2 or 3 ankles, and people get out of your way.
We also discovered there's a wonderful drink tray.
It does.
So
you wouldn't think
everything
that,
on it.
You would not
we
think that you
on
could.
It.
Oh yeah, you would not think that you could hold a Starbucks cup on that and balance it through traffic, but you can. All right, gentlemen, let's kick this off. If you were under a rock and completely unaware of what's been going on, last week was CEDIA. It was in sunny San Diego. Started on Wednesday and kind of kicked off through the whole week with the floor opening Thursday morning and all that fun stuff. So what I want to do is I want to maybe we'll start with you, Mitch. I want to know what your impressions were, because this was the last CEDIA before it's going to be run by Emerald Expositions. What do you forecast changing next year?
Okay, so let's take that from the side of the show itself, and as opposed to the exhibitors. And well, you know, some of the things that we already know and we're going to experience will be kind of a lack of that interpersonal relationship between, as an exhibitor, and the relationship we built up with the CEDIA staff and the CEDIA sales team, because, you know, you had the sales and all the other folks at CEDIA. You felt very close with them. And now all of a sudden we're not working with them. Now all of a sudden we're working with, with a sales team from an unknown entity and unknown salespeople. Although I have been told that I did meet Ashley Sprengnether there, and she is going from CEDIA to, who was it? Emerald Exposition. So there's going to be a couple things I think we'll experience. On the plus side, because, you know, I always look at both sides of things. On the plus side, I'm pretty optimistic that they're going to be bringing in a whole new class of exhibitors, those that have resisted in the past. For example, and many of our listeners here might scoff at this, but appliance companies and smart kitchen products, which, believe it or not, are expected to dominate the smart home in the next 3-4 years anyway. And as integrators, we're going to need to be a part of that. So my gut would be they would have the relationships to bring in and expand. So as an attending integrator, you've got a whole another class of products to take a look at, consider for your revenues. And I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing. I do not see it diluting anything.
Yeah, very good. Richard?
Downside, well, just, you know, downside is they're starting to nickel and dime already. I noticed when we went to read our booth, and again, it's no secret, so I'm not really spilling any beans here, because anyone who went to actually re-sign for next year knows that they're actually now charging you for corners.
Ah, the dreaded corner fee.
Dollars and cents. In other words, if you are a freestanding booth, you have Yeah, that'd be four corners. You pay for four corners in addition to your regular units. So, the nickel and diming has begun. We'll see where it goes.
Very good. Richard, because obviously you're not exhibiting at the show and your company has not done that before. As an attendee, what do you forecast changing next year?
Well, I think for the integrators themselves, it's going to be transparent in the sense of I don't know how many integrators had direct relationship with the sales team, and again, we have just the nature of my relationship with CEDIA. I've worked very tightly with that team and the marketing team, and Expo is a year-long process. I mean, for many years, the minute Expo ended, work for the following year's Expo started. And different teams have different focuses and how they operate. For the company that's going to be on the floor, they may not see a huge difference in that, but there will be differences. I think for me, the key part is how the education aspect is going to be handled, how the training classes are going to be handled, because it's a whole new team. I mean, this is the relationship that the CEDIA staff has had with many of the teachers and the trainers and working their way through is going to be new for all of us. So that is something that we're going to be looking at. I think Mitch brought up a great point. I think the show will be different next year, and I think that's good in the sense that we are very insulated at this point in terms of what the CEDIA offering has been. And there is an opportunity right now, given everything else that's going on. I mean, even the keynote was about IoIT, right? The Internet of Intelligent Things. If we're really going to believe what we're promoting as an association, then we actually have to have a show that reflects that we're embracing it and we're working with integrators to embrace these new things, which may lead into kind of what Mitch was talking about, with the appliance companies and everything else. That's data. And I think that's going to lead into probably one of the things we're talking about, what we saw at the show and kind of the high points of the show, at least for me.
And what we didn't see. The other thing is that I didn't even realize how much overlap there is and things that we don't consider. For example, sitting down with Jeremy Glowacki, as you know, him and his group kind of produced the daily. And he's like, well, we don't know what's going to happen with that because now that falls under Emerald, and Emerald now takes over the show daily. So there are things in sponsorships that we haven't really thought about that. As an integrator, I'd be very curious to get your input a year from now and see what you think.
Well, I'm sure,
especially since we're going to be on the same site. Yeah, I mean, and the fact that we're going to be on the same site. I mean, we're here in San Diego for 2 years, so we're going to get a direct comparison this year. It's not like we're packing up and heading off to another city. We're going to be on the same exact site next year.
Yeah, so we'll have to see where that goes. So, gentlemen, let's talk about what we saw on the floor that was exciting and maybe beyond just products, because that's an easy one. Let's talk about trends. I know for myself, I was a little surprised at how little play voice command got this year. It was not the big player as it was last year. Richard, what stuck out in your mind as the biggest trend out of the show?
For me, I think if I were to cap it in one sentence, I think for me, Expo 17 is going to be the year of analytics. It is about data. It is about the fact that all of the trends that we were showing at the keynote. 27 billion connected devices by 2020, and it's on an exponential climb right now. The amount of data that's being gathered, the interconnectedness of things, and again, it's for me, it's the irony that and I think maybe it's why they've always had issues with what do we name ourselves. But if we're truly going to be integrators, then we really need to focus on all aspects of integration. But for me, it was analytics. And it was data security that are the items that really need to start coming into play. A lot of what we were seeing were products that I thought that were necessary for the installers and for the integrators that they haven't been considering yet, that are going to be potential liability issues over the next 2 years. I really think that in the next 2 years, we're going to see some very public press about someone who placed an IoIT device in a sensitive location and there was a data breach, and there being repercussions for it because it's not being thought about right now. And 4K. So, and 4K.
And 4K. And 4K. Everybody loves 4K. Mitchell, obviously you were in your booth a lot and probably did not get out as much, but what would be the overarching trends that you saw?
Interesting. From my perspective, to me, there was a lot of voice, and that was because Amazon was so omnipresent.
Okay.
When Big Brother was there listening. Amazon did a sponsored keynote. And if you know what a sponsored keynote means, it's a pay to play. It's not really a keynote. It's they call it a keynote, and they filled the room for 1 hour. Let's see, what was her name again? Sarah Zenz. Who's general manager of the Amazon Smart Home Services. Did a keynote. And like I said, she filled the room at 2:00 on Thursday, which was the first day of the show, which is getting a lot of people off the show floor right in the middle of the first day. But we all wanted to kind of hear what she had to say. And she said, okay, we essentially want to partner with you. And it was kind of funny. She actually started by talking about how they're hiring their own people to go in and, advisors to go in and analyze a home. And I'm thinking, oh, great. She's saying she's going to partner with us and they're hiring people. And she's trying to poach CEDIA members, which turned out obviously not to be the case, but that was kind of funny. She led with that. And in reality, when they talked about partnering, they want to offer up a showcase for CEDIA members. We'll see how that pans out. But basically, you've got, close to 3,000 member companies who would have the opportunity to showcase their companies and the projects that they have installed on the Amazon website in order to get referrals. And the referrals, of course, she mentioned would require certification. She mentioned ESC technical, ESC networking. Right. Now, it wasn't clear, and I had this discussion with a couple of other integrators who kind of heard her say you had to have all three. I heard it a little differently, that you had to have at least one of them, but it wasn't clear. So there are a lot of questions about this. But the partnering was interesting. And then a little later, Jeremy Burkhart, of course, we all know and love from Origin, comes up and does his pitch on his new, what was his product called?
The Valet. The Valet amplifier.
The Valet. Again, this is all about voice too. And man, got to give him credit. It was great. It's a great product concept. And he chose his words carefully. He never used the word endorse. He never used the word support. All he talked about was it's an opportunity, and he's right.
Oh yeah, it's a huge opportunity.
So back to Amazon. So you have them doing keynotes. Of course, their word has been out for a couple of weeks before the show. All you heard about was a special event. And then if you took any of the training, Amazon sponsored the training. So Amazon's name was in front of every single classroom, on every single slide deck. So they were omnipresent. And I'd be curious to get your take on that, Matt and Rich. Is that a good or bad thing? I don't know. I mean, they were there.
I think that we're finding that it's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just there. That to ignore it is to ignore it at your peril. And so we are seeing products that are coming out. At the same time, from the integrator channel, there are other segments to elevate and separate yourself from the market, like Josh AI. They also had I thought, a wonderful show. Their concept is starting to tighten up, and there's a big reason why, is that they're backed by tech companies. They're backed by tech investors. These are not just AV guys who said, hey, we're going to throw some voice control. They have some serious backing behind them, and you can see just in a year where they started to refine their process and moving with it. Is it the perfect product? Is it, the everything $59 dot yet? No, it isn't. But we are seeing the gripes. I mean, we and again, from the side of what we're doing with integration, yeah, of course, we've got the dots and the Google Homes and pretty much it's ubiquitous. Like Mitch was saying at this point, voice wasn't such a huge deal because it was ubiquitous. It was like saying you've got you've got a network connection. it's almost like, well, of course you do. You're going to have some form of Google Voice or HomeKit compatible, or Amazon compatible. I mean, again, where everybody's learning the GAFA acronym, right? Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon. And so,
by the way, make that GAFAs. Add an S to that, because you got to add Samsung. Don't forget about that. But we'll come back.
True. So what we're seeing with that is that absolutely products are going to come out. It's going to get refined. A company like Amazon is not going to stop with what they're doing right now. They're just getting their feet wet. I mean, if you really think about it, the Alexa push, the Amazon push, has really only been within like 18 months of like their actual push, and we're already seeing the refinements of where it's moving and it's growing, and the integration that they are already building, kind of in the can with some of the big players like Sonos, for example. So,
and they're still they're not international yet. It's still mostly a U.S. product.
Right. So I think that we're going to see kind of that ubiquitous nature of the voice control. It's gonna become one of those, of course, products. It's just going to be a matter of whether an integrator focuses with one product or an integrator gives them the ability to work with many products.
Well, and I think when you look at it, to get back to Mitch's point, is it was ubiquitous because it has become as ubiquitous as your cable box and your modem and your mobile phone. Everyone's to the point that they're going to, if they don't have one already, it's on the list. They're waiting for the next Prime Day to pick one up for $20.
Right.
And as we continue to go down that line, and Burkhart did a fantastic job, I thought, of designing something that works with that product, that gets it into our space, makes it integrator friendly, and moves it along. Was there anything else product wise that you guys saw that just floored you?
Well, I was, again, just on the voice thing. I thought what Josh did with their micro as a product, I thought was very clever, very intelligent. And back to this whole ubiquitous thing. The micro he's talking about going out for around $399 a piece, but he's talking about one per room. So it's still a very pricey, pricey installation. But I think we'd all be fooling ourselves if we didn't think he's going to scale that a little bit. But as we talk about voice being ubiquitous, what the next step in voice is all of this artificial intelligence, where we're starting to hear a little bit about that. And that's kind of what Josh has been talking about. They're less about the voice and the intelligence behind it. So as you know now with voice is essentially, speech to text. Yes. You have to speak exactly what that text will recognize in order for that text to enable. So if I walk into my room and, and I say, Alexa, turn on the lights. And Rich's Alexa just turned his lights on.
She's muted, exactly. Yeah, I muted her for that reason. So
right?
I've been through that too many times.
But if I say that, it doesn't know. There's no context behind it. It's only a matter of time before, when I say, turn on the lights, it's going to know that I'm in the living room, so I must mean the living room lights. And then you may or may not have noticed last week, or I should say the week before CEDIA, was IFA, which is a huge show, over 200,000 people in Germany. And Sony announced their new smart speaker. We're not sure which platform they're using at this point. Samsung talked about using their Bixby voice. That's why I say it's now GAFAs, not GAFA. And then Amazon announced that they're working with Microsoft's Cortana, because Cortana really is, their speech to text is more focused on the business side. So right now you'd have to go, Alexa, tell Cortana to open up my laptop, So again, it's speech to text, but this is the part that you're starting to hear little bits about as you walk around CEDIA last week, about that next step where the intelligence kicks into the voice.
Very good. Richard, do you see anything that blew you away?
There was several for me. I had, fortunately, the opportunity to spend a lot of time with a lot of the finalists for this year at CEDIA, and so it was great to be able to be in there. And again, for me, that's where I went back to the analytics side of things. We're always going to have great product, I've never worried about our channel having great product. I mean, Sony's got, 4K for $5K. They just released a full 4K projector for $5,000.
Yep.
There's great speaker product out there. There's great projection screen product out there. There's wonderful short throw projectors now. There's, the OLED is finally maturing in the market, and it's working, and people are selling it. The motorization that we're seeing is getting far more refined, far more affordable. Outdoor audio is becoming a viable product base. I mean, I don't think every manufacturer had an outdoor speaker. Every speaker manufacturer that I saw had an outdoor speaker. It's viable now, and it's getting refined and it's attractive. Before we don't only have, these rocks sitting out there. We have some, one of the company came out with an array, a line array speaker.
Yeah, the Origin BO combo.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, pro sound layouts, in a residential application. But for me, it was tools. I mean, I'm always about tools. I'm always about, for me, custom integration is, I think if you're doing it well as an integrator, you start operating in the act of anticipatory service, right? You are providing services at times before the client even knows they need them, and you're building that goodwill there. And where that comes from is from the tools. The cinema designer. If you are planning on doing a home theater of any type, it's amazing. I mean, I was shocked when I spoke with the fellow who developed it. Brilliant. I mean, the only word I can use is brilliant. And if you haven't seen what this software can do, you need to. I'll pull links up of what this does. This put the true math in the engineering of what you need to fully develop a room instead of just kind of winging it. Everything from the design, the math, the floor plan layout for you, the physical layout for you, and then it goes, oh, and by the way, we're going to go ahead and render it to give you a visualization all the way down the line. For a subscription model of £400 a year, which roughly equates to $700 a year. It was nuts. Mitch won't talk about it because he's a little too modest, but they came out with a tool that I think every single integrator needs to have. If you're dealing with Zigbee at all, or Z-Wave. Let me take a step back. Sorry, Z-Wave. With any Z-Wave product, they came out with a tool that gives you every single thing that you need to know. Again, it's kind of one of the ubiquitous pieces. If you're doing Z-Wave, you need this product. It's brilliant. It was brilliant. I mean, he indulged me by I kept going, but what about this? What about this? He's like, you mean that? You mean that? You mean that? And also a great company that I met with was a company called FireFX. And they were the first ones that really are, and I wasn't sold on them before I met them. Because my concern was, are integrators playing outside their lane when dealing with things like network intrusion, firewall protection? But the more that I thought about it and the more that I saw products on the floor, it's very possible that an integrator who puts an IoIT enabled device in a home and there's a data breach and they're at that point of the data breach, the insurance and the liability implications of something like that, if you aren't at least taking basic measures to protect client privacy, it could literally end companies if they're not careful. And it's not being spoken of enough. And my first concern was, well, we should be hiring network professionals. Well, you're not at that point. If you're selling a SKU, a hardware-enabled device that has any type of security or potential to access secure information, you need to be thinking about it. Insurance companies, and again, insurance policies are already starting to show that. For the privacy breach protection. And I think that as professionals, that's something that we need to be exploring, is protecting our companies. I mean, it's always the selling stuff and the gadgetry and the great part about what we do is important, but it's minding your business and keeping your business as well. And so that one hit home for me from an exposure standpoint, and not to scare the market, but to say, you need to be very careful and you need to think about, if you are doing voice, if you're doing all of these things, you want to make sure you're not culpable. And again, Equifax had a huge breach when we were at the show, right? Or right before the show.
Yeah, it was announced right at the show.
Yeah, that's going to be an issue for a long time.
Huge. You don't want to be caught. You don't want to be that kind of headline that XYZ happened because it came through your smart camera. And again, and they did, I think they did the demo for Matt and I, where they basically showed the guys at FireFX, they wrote a little white hack to be able to come in through an unprotected security camera and take things over. And they got through to that. They got through to the camera. They got through to the little lighting system. Guess what? Those are items that integrators are selling. And so it's something to be, and then lastly for me, again, it was Oversea Home had great stuff. Ahiji, who just retired their Envision product, is coming out with their new product. Control Foreign Package had their, it's for me, like I said, the year of analytics. That information is there, and the anticipatory service. And as you've got more connected devices, you need to be concerned about the health of those devices and what they're actually doing inside the house. Well, and an example is like we were talking to Amazon. So say you sell 6 of these dots that go with the Val AM. Well, how are you gonna monitor when something maybe is going awry or there's an issue with that unit, or there's always something to be connected with that you're gonna get the call, even though it had nothing to do with you, and that dot goes awry, you're still gonna get that call. So better to know about it and call and say, hey, we've noticed that there's a problem. We're taking care of it here remotely. If there's going to be an issue, we're going to have a technician out, ... No,
exactly. So that's the final word, is that analytics were the big deal. Mitch, if people want to connect with you, find out more about the toolkit, where can they do that?
Let's come on down to www.zwavealliance.org. There's a dash in there, z-wavealliance.org. Please feel free to email me. It's mitch@zwavealliance.org. And happy to work and talk with all of you guys.
Excellent. Thanks for being here. Rich, where can people connect with you?
You can pretty much type my name into any browser, and you can type Uncle Richie and something's going to pop up. No, not necessarily something I might be proud of, but it'll be up there.
Something will pop.
Something will pop up. You can find me at fregosadesign.com, on Twitter at rfregosa. But more importantly, I think this week, go to AVNation TV. Our crew worked very hard to bring videos from the show floor, and you'll see a lot of me and Matt and
you
Mr.
Albright. Your
Albright.
butts off, by the way. I will definitely validate that. You got some good stuff going.
Thank you very much. For myself, if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me on Twitter at Matt D. Scott and every other social platform. But more importantly, please take a moment to stop by avnation.tv. You'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our underwriters. We're extremely thankful for their support and ask that you check them out as well. For more talk of CEDIA and our complete coverage of the CEDIA show, please visit avnation.tv/CEDIA. Everything will be there. That's all the time we have for this episode of Resiweek.